Jovi, good to see you again. Could you introduce yourself, what you do, what your company does, and the problem you're solving?
Perfecto, thanks, and very happy to be here. So my name is Jovi Overo. I am the CEO of One.io, and essentially at One, what we are doing is that we are building the future of money movement. So we want to deliver one platform, every currency, every cryptocurrency, stablecoin, anywhere in the world at the speed of now. And it's an ambitious program, but one that we are relishing to do. And ultimately, if you look at the way businesses move money today, and I know it's a cliche, and I know it's been said time and time again, but the way businesses move money is broken, and that's clear. You've got too many partners, you've got too much friction, you have delays, and all of that kills opportunity. And at One, what we're looking to do is change that with a financial infra play that brings accounts, global payments, FX, crypto trading, and processing all into one place in the wrapped, neat, beautiful bow. And we give high growth businesses the financial firepower, essentially similar to the likes of big financial institutions. So that's who I am and what we are doing.
Nice. Okay, cool. So, what made you get into this space? Because you're a bit seasoned in the fintech space, right?
Absolutely. And I guess there are two reasons. You've got one that's a personal story,
Hmm.
and then you've got one which is a real life problem. From a personal perspective, obviously, I grew up in a single parent household. My mother didn't really have the skills and the financial literacy and education. And I saw how much the people that really need financial inclusion were excluded because of a lack of financial education and a lot of financial solutions for them. And those are the very people that need it the most. And I think I saw a phrase that says, banking as a service should not be the purview of the affluent. So obviously, growing up in that environment for me was my, I guess, guiding north star. And that was my personal perspective. From a professional perspective, I've spent my career in financial services and in fintech, and I keep seeing great companies die. I keep seeing great companies talk about the pain and the issues, and I've seen it, and it really annoys the hell out of me because I put clients front and center. And these clients, they haven't failed, they haven't died, not because the product wasn't great or because the product, failed, but because of the financial infrastructure, that failed them essentially. And the tipping point, essentially is seeing a client lose millions in pipeline when their provider froze onboarding without any warning whatsoever. And that was when I kind of knew, if you can own the rails, if you can own the compliance, and if you can own the client experience end to end, then you win the market.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, nice. And which market is that for everyone? So obviously, like lots of or most businesses can use one. Is there a specific market?
You have, different verticals from FX, the crypto market, gaming, gambling, and again, and I wouldn't want to say that we are simply catering to the high risk sector, but these are the sectors that it doesn't take that much for somebody in compliance to simply see, oh, it's a high risk sector, so therefore no, because they don't really understand the space, the pain points, the problems, and what goes into operating in that area. So typically it's a blanket no. So those are the spaces that we feel we can serve well because
Hmm.
we believe we understand their pain points and we understand the compliance issues that they face well.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And is it a situation of build it and they will come? Like, is the product so strong people are coming to you? Are you going out to them? How does that look?
I'd like to believe that it is a case of build it and they will come. Now, One.io, I would say, have been flying under the radar. And I guess that's by design because we really want to perfect our solution before we talk about it to the market. But I think we're at a point now where it's important that we display how powerful our solution can be, especially in the current climate. So yes, agreed. If you build it, and you talk about it and it provides utility, then they will come.
Okay, okay. And has there been many scenarios where there's been people coming in and maybe looking at you versus other competitors? So how much competition is there in the space? Do people,
Yeah,
yeah, is that
there is, there are a lot of competitors in the space, and I guess I want to be vanilla and boring by saying if you focus on the things that matter the most, that is where you win.
Mm,
And when you have competitors who focus on putting shiny, glossy UI, UX first and front and center,
yeah.
but behind the scenes, they don't really focus on the main issue, which is the compliance piece, that's where we win. So again, it doesn't matter if a competitor has a war chest of funding, if they've got the best team, if they've got the shiniest, fanciest products. If I, as a business, have no clarity in terms of I'm sending you funds and I want to make sure that they arrive here
Hmm.
cheaply, quickly, and compliantly, but it disappears down the black hole, then your shiny, fancy product means absolutely nothing to me and my business. So the space is, I would say, saturated, but we see compliance as a moat. We see compliance as a competitive advantage. And we think that's where other competitors tend to simply cut cost on.
Okay. So it's probably more the uneducated buyers, maybe, or like the ones that haven't gone through the process of seeing the issues around the compliance, and maybe go to the shiny.
Well, you say uneducated. I would like to say not very well informed, and
Okay.
perhaps seduced, by the fancy website and the fancy pages and the fancy UI and the UX and the fact that they've raised 50 million Series B, or the fact that they've been bought for 200 million, by Ripple.
Mm.
You need to look under the hood and get your hands dirty, and it should be compliance by design. So misinformed, ill-informed, yes. Uneducated, a little harsh.
Yeah, fine. Yeah.
Yeah,
When I say uneducated, I
I
mean
know what you mean.
they haven't gone
Yeah,
through the pain.
I'm giving you a hard time.
Yeah, no, well, I think that's fair for the previous chips that I gave you when we first met. So so what's been and there may not be any at this stage, but has there been any sales or growth mistakes that have come on the side of one that you've noticed?
Well, I can't say that there have been any because it's relatively early for me at one, having obviously recently joined. But there have been multiple mistakes, that I've seen in other organizations that I've been party to,
Mhm.
from a sales perspective. And I would say perhaps hiring sales before really locking in the process. And again, busy doesn't mean productive. You have to build the machine first. You have to build the processes first, and then plug the people into it. And sometimes that's a mistake I see organizations doing, where they just simply think it's grow at all cost, hire salespeople, and those people are just sitting there doing nothing, twiddling the thumbs because the process and the machine hasn't been built first correctly.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So it's there's no actual flow through from someone first being interested in then buying and actually using, and then people chuck in salespeople and like, yeah, we need more leads.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And I also see sometimes where businesses will build the product without knowing that the market even wants it, right? So.
Yeah. And again, it's something that so I'm very, very commercially minded, and I guess in the past I've always seen that as not a weakness, but I would want people to think of me as being more than just commercially minded. But I've begun to wear that more with a badge of honor because, again, you're very correct. You have to build a robust and defensible go-to-market playbook, and that's absolutely imperative. And then you've got the first motion, which is you have to have the processes and the procedures to build targeted outbound campaigns. So, for example, at one, we're looking at targeted outbounds to high friction industries. And these are industries that, as I mentioned earlier on, that everyone either doesn't understand well or avoid. So crypto, gaming, emerging markets. It takes more than just simply scanning Google and doing desktop research to think, oh yeah, well, we understand those verticals and that's in that industry well. It takes a lot more than that. And then you need to build, the pipeline. So 50% outbound, let's say 30% inbound, and that comes from reputation, it comes from partnerships, and then 20% from strong alliances. So again, at previous organizations I worked for, I really made it imperative to build those strong partnerships. So again, as an example, at one of my former companies, we had a very lean sales team, but because we had cemented and developed key and close relationships with the likes of MasterCard and Visa, they could, in essence, I guess, act as a sales arm for our business by referring prospective clients to us. So again, alliances and partnerships are very, very key. And then internal controls. You'll hear sales team bemoan the fact that, we bring business in, but then you've got AML, risk compliance, that are deal blockers, and that shouldn't be the case. We make sure that the process is that you have internal compliance sign off. So it shouldn't be sales, it shouldn't be pricing, but risk review. Get that ironclad on at the very beginning before you waste your time and the client's time by going through the whole rigmarole. So as I've mentioned, we want to, and this is something that I want to implement, a front load compliance. So by the time commercials are done, by the time we've agreed pricing and everything else, all risk approvals are already done. That is how you build a nice, steady flow that is seamless, frictionless, and again, is a value add, not only to your colleagues, because nobody wants to go through the rigmarole of going through onboarding only to fail, and also to the client, because they don't want to waste their time. You build a good playbook like that, and you'll tend to make everyone happy.
Yeah, nice. No, I like that, and I think it will also work in the favor of boosting the conversions from the psychological perspective of these guys are actually doing their due diligence. Like,
Yeah,
it's that before. It's just that, like, yeah, these guys are on it. That kind of feel.
correct.
Yeah, nice. Okay. What's something that you believe about growth that no one else believes? So a contrarian thought in the market.
Let me think on this.
Could be something that you see online a lot and you disagree with people talking about.
I wanted to make sure that the answer I gave dovetailed with my experiences in the industry since, let's say, 2018. And I can see now there have been multiple uniform examples. And when it comes to B2B fintech, I guess the contrarian view I have is that more leads can ultimately kill you. You may think that having more leads is good, but no, the wrong ones, the wrong type of leads are going to drown your pipeline. I can speak of a company I worked for who chased a whale of a client, got it, but that client ended up almost killing the business because of their demands, and it was just too big, too much of a resource drag on the business at that stage. And yes, it was a great logo, absolutely. And did it elicit more credibility when it comes to fundraising? Absolutely. But behind the scenes, that one client almost killed the business because of the demands on the team. So I guess that's one contrarian view. The second one, and again, I've alluded to it on the call multiple times, compliance. It's not a hurdle, and it can be a moat. And I really wish more businesses would realize that. And I think slowly but surely they are. But again, I've seen so many deals get killed, so many clients angry and disappointed and leaving a black mark when it comes to giving a review, just because your compliance is not on point.
Yeah.
If you invest in compliance, it absolutely is a moat. And I guess the last one, which for me is also consistent, is that the pipeline value. That means nothing without speed and without conversion. I mean, Christ Almighty, how many times I see this?
Yeah.
And it's something that obviously I want to implement and make sure. But having a huge pipeline is just as creative as Spielberg. It's just fairy dust.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's a lot of the work we do is going in and like uncovering it all, saying okay, and just crossing stuff out. Unfortunately, that's not qualified, that's not qualified. So no, I agree with all the points.
And Cormac, again, not to discredit obviously the good work that you guys do, but the fact that companies have to get consultants in to discredit that, it doesn't qualify. It's elementary. My goodness, the amount of deals that I've seen. I remember distinctly a call with a senior BDM, and they gave me the pipeline and said, "Yeah, this is a red hot pipeline." Okay, tell me more about it. So let's pull up the first one. Pulled it up. What's the website? Let me check. The website wasn't working. And I mean, how can it be red hot if their website doesn't work? And bear in mind, we're dealing with businesses in the high risk space. The first thing they would want is, yeah, don't get me started.
Yeah, yeah. Fine. Yeah, no, I agree. So, okay, let's go into a bit of a quick fire round. So I will give you a quick
Sure.
question and just off the top of your head. So first, a book or podcast that's changed how you think about business.
Ooh, in fact, do I have it here? So there are certain books that I always go back to, and this is one. I don't know if you can see it, but it's called "The Hard Thing About Hard Things" by Ben Horowitz. And it's a great book for founders and CEOs that did not found the company. And it's I guess it's like a playbook about the good, the bad, the ugly, and also things that worked well, things that didn't work well, the risks that were taken, and the fact that it is, as a CEO and as a founder, a painful journey, and one must have a high tolerance for pain if you want to go down that path. So yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll add that to the list. What's a tech tool that you use every day?
Toss up between HubSpot and Salesforce for sales CRM, and I guess ClickUp for execution.
Okay. And the toss up between Salesforce and HubSpot is because of
Honestly, it depends on the person in the company that's actually in charge of it. I've worked in some companies where we have Salesforce, but it's not been deployed effectively because the individual in charge of it has not been that good. And in other organizations, there's somebody that is an expert at it. And depending on the right person, they can get the most value from either Salesforce or HubSpot. Before, I used to be very firmly in the camp of Salesforce. But then once you've got somebody who actually understands completely how to unlock value from HubSpot, that's why for me to toss up between the two.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fine. Yeah. I've seen a mix as well. I've seen some Salesforce systems that are a mess, some HubSpot systems that are a mess, and the other side of the coin as well. Okay. Underrated go-to-market channel.
Easy. I'm a master networker, but it needs to be engaging, and for me, closed door industry events. Everyone always says this, and I'll say it on here. When I go to standard industry events, it's so vanilla because I see the exact same faces, I hear the exact same talks, I see the exact same vendors trying to sell me stuff, me trying to sell them stuff. It's repetitive and it's negative ROI. But when you go to the industry events behind closed doors, so as an example, events put on by, let's say, MasterCard, or events put on by specific companies, a dinner, an intimate setting where you can just talk, that to me is, so, in fact, can I say underrated? Because I think those in the know, that's where deals are done, essentially. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So invite only.
Yes.
Okay. And how can someone get an invite only if they're not if they're not getting invited already?
Putting yourself out there and not being an annoying salesperson. There is an art to networking, and some people really haven't got. And I'll say this again, my pet peeve, and this is how I separate those who know how to really network and try to deliver an honorable value versus those who are simply there just selling. When you go to an event and the first thing they do is to look at your name badge and your title to determine whether you're worth speaking to, that isn't for me how things are done. I don't care if you're the cleaner, if you're the cook, if you're an EA, or if you're the CEO. I'm sure there is something that I can learn about your business that will give me more information about you, and something that I can tell you about my business that will give more information about that. So there's always an exchange of value. If you just simply discount somebody based on title alone, that says to me that you really don't know how to cultivate relationships because you don't believe in them. You only see them as transactional based.
Yeah, okay, and I think it's well, for me, it's like connecting with the people instead of like a lot of people focus on the business, right?
Yeah,
Okay, what business is it? But yeah, I end up speaking to people about random things, but
random things, and that's when things. Yeah, and I'm glad, considering that obviously you didn't know who Bon Jovi was initially. So I was going to say that your generation, but the generation seems to think that when you go to an event, all you must do is simply talk about business. For me, it's a bonus if it goes on to business. But I want to speak and connect with you and have a meaningful discussion and engagement with you. Now, there is an argument to be said. Well, it's just a waste of time. Granted, but I don't see me getting to know you as an individual to be a waste of time. Whether it's today, tomorrow, or next week, who knows how and when our paths will cross again.
Yeah, I completely agree. Okay, founder or leader that you really admire?
I'll probably get heat for this, but I will change my mind. Before the whole Trump event, Elon Musk. Yeah, I, I always say this. There is a quote that is attributed to him, which goes that failure must always be an option, otherwise you risk making choices that are too conservative, and that drives how I see business and also personal relationships. You have to be willing to take risks and you have to be willing to fail. And for that alone, and based on what he has done in the past, and forget all these bombastic statements about Tesla and full self-driving and this and that and that, the fact that he's always taken risks to me is what I've admired. His change in politics, yeah, not so much, but that in its essence is why I've admired Elon Musk, and that has been a guiding principle of me. I always go into something, an idea, an event, a business with, look, Jovi, failure has to be considered here, because when you really move the needle is when you take risks.
Yeah, nice. I like it. Okay, where can people connect with you?
Well, LinkedIn is the area I reside in. Cringy or not, I've been called, "Oh, you're famous on LinkedIn," and I think, oh, God Almighty, so corny. But yeah, LinkedIn is where I tend to make posts, engage in good comments and good discourse. So yeah, LinkedIn.
Perfect. Well, I'll put your LinkedIn in the comments. But yeah, thanks for coming on. It's been great.
No worries. And if any of your listeners are building in high growth, high friction sectors and need financial infrastructures that would break when they scale, connect with me on LinkedIn and let's talk.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Jovi.
Cheers, Cormac.